We are back. We are back. It's been a calendar week. The NBA started on the 22nd. We're actually recording this on the 30th, but it's basically been a calendar week since the NBA has been back. It's been a lot of good basketball being played. Christmas was a little disappointing, in my opinion, just as far as how close the games were. But happy to be back. Eric, my boy, what's up? What's good?
What's going on? Yeah, it's been a lot of bad basketball too, though. That is facts, man. A lot of blowouts. So I mean, we'll get into all that, but yeah, man, good, man. First and foremost, for all the feedback that we got from a lot of people, man, appreciate it. I think especially if you saw what Q dropped in terms of the edit coming out, what me on Scotty said and him on Mike said, man, a lot of people rocking with it. Like the feedback. So yeah, just keep giving us that, man. We keeping it going and obviously love what y'all hearing, and so trying to keep this rolling for y'all.
Yep. And so before we get into our segments, if you know me, you know how I feel about this particular athlete. And I will be remiss not to shout out my boy, the King, LeBron James, on his 36th birthday. But yeah, man, I think, LeBron is probably one of the most polarizing athletes of his time. The whole Jordan LeBron debate, we can go on for years and years, but I think this is a time where we can just appreciate Bron for who he is and what he has done on and off the court, his consistency, his health, just being just a model stand-up dude, and just understanding coming from an era where he was the most hyped high school prospect of all time, and really just capitalized at virtually every moment in his career to get to the point where he is now. And man, you just look at, the superstars around the NBA, you look at guys who've had a good few years. It's really, really insane when you think about the longevity and the continued excellence for LeBron. I think when his career is over, that's probably going to be the number one thing people say about Bron, is nobody else did it at the level and for the amount of years that he did. So I tip my hat for Bron. There's no need to get into the GOAT debate or the GOAT talk. I just want to show some love for my guy. And Lakers are my pick this year, so hopefully he gets his fifth, and he's one closer to what I said I wouldn't really compare him to. But yeah.
Hey, it's a necessary evil. But for real, man, obviously the biggest thing with LeBron, like you said, is longevity. So for me, man, I don't really, especially as an adult, I don't really look up to, celeb athletes. I mean, they put on their clothes the same way as I do, but I can honestly say LeBron James is one person as, black man, 29 years old. But I'm man, I look at that dude, I'm that's, what you aspire to be honest. I mean, just everything he does off the court. So yeah, like you said, man, on the court, nothing needs to be said, you know who he is, but off the court, man, what he's doing, I promise school, everything he donates, the opportunities open in media. So, happy G-Day, Bron. Happy 36. Spent half his life in the league right now, which is crazy to think. Yeah. But happy, flowers to you, my dude. Flowers to you.
Absolutely. So, yeah, shout out Bron. And now we're going to move into our first segment of the day.
The Chicago nigga.
And this is our Chicago Bulls segment, as we do every week, because we are Chicago-based. We are Bulls fans. They come first, even though they haven't been playing good basketball in quite some time. We spoke last week about how this is a team that, we should have some optimism about. We should they've been doing some things as far as the new regime in the front office and make us be a little bit more confident going into the season. And as of today, they are 1-3. Should be 2-2. I don't know if you watched the Warrior games. The Warriors game was 2 games ago, but they were definitely robbed of that one. Really bad officiating late game. Levine, clean move to take the lead. He deserved it. But yeah, the Bulls.
Yeah, the Bulls, man. It's it's been a rocky start so far. Got that first win under the belt against Brad Beal and Westbrook and the Wizards, so huge. But the crazy thing to me is, man, obviously, Quincy and I talked about this, but it's not really surprising to me. I guess the blowouts against the Hawks, and then game 2 against the Pacers were surprising. 2 back-to-back 20-point losses. But, that was really surprising to me. And then the Warriors game is kind of what I expected, like us to be close, competitive. You might lose one. But, yeah, there's some good signs happening in that. The one thing that I want to get your feedback on is a lot of people have been talking about, Wendell Carter and his development and Coby White's development. In the first 4 games, small sample size. But what did you see? I got my thoughts on it. I'll get into it. But first, obviously I know you like those guys. What were your thoughts on how those dudes were playing?
Okay, so as far as Coby and Wendell go, a lot has been made about how natural of a point guard Coby White is. And obviously the answer is he's not really a point guard. He's more of a combo. If anything, he's like a scorer first, and that's kind of what he's been his whole career. When I watch Coby White play,
for sure,
I can still get those vibes. Like as far as a ball handler, he doesn't seem the most natural. Some of his passing feel for the game isn't always there, but through the last couple games that I've watched, I'm starting to see improvements. I remember watching the game yesterday. He had a really nice skip pass where, he's been trying to force the bounce pass off the pick and roll a lot to his big guys, but he kind of recognized that help came over to Wendell, and he had a really nice skip pass in the corner to P. Will, knock down the 3. And plays like that, when they're accurate, and it seems like, he's just getting it right away, are encouraging. And I know you're going to talk about the boys in Cleveland a little bit later, but patience is something that we really need to practice with Coby, because he played a little bit last year. The second half of the season, he started to get more minutes. So he's still very, very young, and I have faith in some of the things he does well. He definitely has a strap. I think he's shooting close to 40% from 3 through these first 4 games. So I'm feeling a little bit better through 4 games than I was when I was watching preseason, even the first 2 games of the season. So Coby, I think Coby will be okay. And then as far as Wendell goes, I think the role Billy Donovan had him in was a little bit unnatural for him as well. He was kind of like that big who they were running from dribble handoffs, high screens, and he was struggling sometimes making the right decisions. You could tell the chemistry wasn't right between him and Zach. But I think, again, first 2 games versus the last 2 games, you see him be a little bit more aggressive offensively, put the ball on the ground. So it's just growing pains with those 2. And I'm seeing improvements literally from preseason from the first 2 games to now. So, I feel okay. I feel okay about him. What's your thoughts, man? How
it was it was night and day, I'll say, the last 2 games, man. For me, Coby, I always said, I never saw him as a point guard. And, you alluded to the boys out in Cleveland. I'll be honest, Darius Garland, if we were taking a point guard, is who I wanted to get last year. Mm-hmm. And I've tweeted about this, and I was upset when we got Coby. But just because I didn't think we were going to let him beat Coby. You know what I mean? Coby is a scorer. He can score the rock. I think from him, man, big testament to him, he started the season when he was in college, averaging 14 a game, and then went into conference play and then up to scoring by 5 points, which is crazy because now teams are really game planning and scheming. So as long as they're letting Coby score the ball the way that they have been doing the last 2 games, I'm all fine for it because he's a scoring guard, man. He's a 2 guard who puts the ball in the bucket. But, the last 2 games, man, he's had at least 18, 6, and 5 in the last 2 games, and that's huge, man. To have 18.6 rebounds, 5 assists against Russell Westbrook, right, and Brad Beal backcourt, that says a lot to me. And then to do that same thing against Steph Curry, huge, man. Wendell, I think he's coming along too, man. I think he really wants to prove himself, show himself that he could, do a little bit more than what he was doing, right? Thinking about in terms of shooting the ball, kind of the handoff you alluded to. But, he's had double-doubles the last 2 games, man. A big double-double against the Warriors, man. He had like 23 and 12, I believe it was. And so to see those steps that he's taking, that confidence that he's building, that's huge. Yeah. Obviously, I think this is going to be a big year in terms of seeing what these guys have, but been huge, man. And the last, 2 guys is Lauri's taking a big step, man, which I really appreciated, man, because, Lauri's second year, he was 19-9 in the NBA, man. Like, that's almost 20-10, so that's a big step, Little minor setback last night. He tweaked his calf that was been bothering him. So He didn't play in the fourth quarter, so it's kind of a bummer. But he's making strides, bro. He's shooting the ball well.
Yeah.
He's averaging 17-7 on the season, and he's shooting 48% from three so far, and he's taking like 5-6 attempts a game. Yeah. Shooting that thing. So, and Pat Williams, man, I'm so happy for Pat, man. I can't talk enough about this, bro. Like, I tell people, I tweeted this out. I was like, yo, be patient. You don't know what you have. And I think he's surprising a lot of people, bro. He's a very fluid athlete. He handles the ball well, which really surprised me because I knew he could handle, but not as well as he's handling. Right. Shot making, and he's shooting the ball well too, man. So I love what Billy's doing with this, letting the young guys start and then bringing the older guys, and some of the vets, closing out games, just kind of throwing them in the fire, man. So, yeah, man, I mean, obviously 1-3, like it to be a little better, but I will tell you that I'm definitely all for tanking based on the draft class that's coming up next year. I'm not going to lie to you. But, man, as long as we got competitive games where it's like, we losing by 5-7 points, just don't know how to win yet, I feel like that's where I'm at. But I will say, though, this, man, one thing that concerns, I want to get your thoughts on this is we are 1-3, and, Zach LaVine, obviously, last 2 years averaged 25 points a game. And he's on record saying that he wants to win, bro. So, I can attest to that. I think we need to, at some point, possibly trade Zach to get assets because, I know it's possible that he's going to leave in 2 years, but I don't know, man. We haven't really talked about it. What is your thoughts on Zach and kind of the situation that he's in, being the leader of this young team?
Yeah, so LaVine's one of those guys where, like, sometimes you look at the situation he's been in and you kind of feel bad for him. Even before he came to the Bulls, when he was just showing that promise as just like a very skilled and athletic, shooting guard. And, I was feeling just a little bad. I'm like, man, Zach, you got that talent. There's a lot of teams, there's a lot of contenders that would love to have a Zach LaVine on the team right now. Think about, you look at the Warriors have been struggling and how terrible Oubre and Andrew Wiggins have been playing, but if they have a Zach LaVine on that team, they're looking a lot better, right? But there's a lot, there's just a lot of contenders that will use a guy who'll be willing to give up draft picks and younger players for an established guard. And so, it's a question as far as like what do we do with Zach? It's tough to answer because when we think about how far away this Bulls team is from being an actual playoff team, if you get rid of LaVine, I think that timeline gets even longer, right? Because it's hard to get that 25 points a game for somebody else who's that good. And on top of that, through these first 4 games, he's actually been way more active defensively. I think he's averaging like 2 steals per game. And so, I can't. I'm kind of split on whether or not, like, where do you go with LaVine? Get rid of him. I don't know if we're going to step in and get those buckets. And honestly, depending on who we draft, depending on how the season finishes out, and then depending on how our young guys develop throughout this year, next year might be the year where we make that extra jump, depending on who we get in the draft. So I don't know, man. It just depends on what these packages will look like. It's tough. I really do like Zach. Yeah. So.
Nah, I like Zach a lot, man. I just think I think the writing's almost kind of on the wall. Like, if we don't get better based on the timeline, next season will be 27. And, I tell people, you can say what you want about Zach, but he's going to get paid, though. Yeah. That is a fact. Like, he's going to garner over, 110 to 120 million somewhere because, he's still super young. He's still athletic. And, there's not many people who scores the ball that way. And if he, locks in on defense, like you said, continues to do that, they not being some Tony Allen all-world, first-team all-defense defender. Just, just be solid, bro. I think the sky's the limit for him. So hopefully he doesn't leave. I would like for him to stay here, but obviously you never know. I hate when guys I think they're gonna leave and you just don't get any assets for him before they peace out. So hopefully he proves me wrong. Hopefully he stays in Chicago. I know he loves Chicago. That's the thing. Kind of grew up here, so NBA and everything. But yeah, man, we'll see. Any
No, man, that's it. That's all I got on our Bulls. That's all I got.
We won 1-3. It's not a lot to say.
All right. So it is time to move on. And so our next segment that we will be doing for every podcast, kind of in line with the whole top 5 sports brand, is 5 things that we either liked or didn't like, 5 observations around the league. And I know, Eric, you want to start us off this week. Who you got? What do you like? What do you don't like out of the league this year? It's early, but let's hear what you got to say.
Yeah, man, I got to kick us off with 5 things we liked and didn't like. I got Trae Young and the Hawks, man. I talked about them, a little bit in the NBA preview pod, but man, I'm excited, man. They're 3-0. They've scored the 3rd most points in their team's history these 3 games. Trae is averaging 34, 4 and 7, playing phenomenal, and they're just moving the ball well, man. A lot of ball movement, man. Lloyd Pierce, their second-year coach there, man, he's doing a phenomenal job. And so I really love what the Hawks are doing, man. They made those big acquisition pieces to get, Bogdanovich there, Bogdan that was in Sacramento. They signed Gallinari, brought Rondo in for that veteran presence. Chris Dunn, who's former Bull. Shout out to Chris. He's there now too. So, they're making moves, man, and, finding that chemistry. So let's kick it off, man. Tip my hat off to the Hawks, man, doing great things. 3-0 on the young season. Yep. I think they're gonna be a playoff team, man. So I like where they're at. Kick it over to you, man. What's something for number 2 that you liked or didn't like so far this season?
So this is something that obviously you don't like as far as injuries go. They happen every year, and you just hope it doesn't take away from some of the more intriguing matchups around the league. So luckily, I guess we haven't had too many like earth-shattering runs, but the few I do want to highlight, first and foremost, is the Ja Morant one, because I got to know, I wasn't watching the game, but I got the notification that he was wheelchaired off the court, and my heart dropped. I was like, no, like just no. I think when everybody watches Ja Morant, they get like Derrick Rose, like flashback PTSD, because they're similar in this, like that stupid raw athleticism, 2-foot jumpers, always on the ground, like crazy lays, all that. So you just worry all that jumping in air time and falling, it sometimes is going to be, the wrong thing, the wrong fall, and it's an ankle.
No, that's real, bro. That is very real. Especially the way they land too. So that's a good point.
Exactly. And I know it's crazy because, like, you think about modern science and how it's changed the athlete body, and like teams are really getting into the nitty gritty when it comes to like telling players how to run, how to jump, how you should be landing, just to prevent little things like this. I know the Pelicans were doing like a lot of like extra work with Zion when he was taking that time off, just to kind of get him in a mode of like, there's things you do in like your everyday, from your posture to how you run, how you jump, that will lead to injury eventually if you keep doing it this way. So I hopefully there's somebody in Memphis that they are kind of making sure he understands it, like, 2 points is 2 points. They don't always have to be, the crazy or whatever. And so luckily, I think it was like a grade 2 ankle sprain, and he should be back in a few weeks. But obviously, I think the bigger story was the Dinwiddie partially torn ACL for the Brooklyn Nets. And this is kind of two-sided. For one, this is probably going to remove the Rockets or remove the Nets from a trade destination for the Rockets, because more likely than not, Dinwiddie would have been a part of that package. And with him being out for the season, that kind of like removes him from that situation. But furthermore, as far as like how the Nets move on from this season, I think that's going to really affect their depth, because I think that was a part of what made that team so deadly, because, you got Kyrie and KD, obviously, who do what they do every week, but there was a element of that team where, like, okay, well, Kyrie kicks it, KD drives, kicks it, and now Dinwiddie has the ball, who not only can knock down the shot, but he can get to the cup, he can create too. So I think that's going to be very interesting to see how this team moves on by losing a player who's super solid, like probably a tier or 2 below an all-star player in the right situation. So that's something to keep our eye on. I think this is going to make the role of LeVert even more important. Joe Harris going to have to step up probably. Taurean Prince is probably going to have to step up probably. But it's definitely a loss for the Nets. So I think that's something we should keep our eye outs. And luckily, up to this point, I mean, Karl Anthony Towns had a slight wrist injury, but other than that, I think we're good around the league as far as like big injuries. So that is something I wanted to kind of point out.
Man, that's a great point, man. Before get into number 3 on my end, the biggest thing, I picked the Nets to make the finals against the Lakers, and so for me, man, I think Dinwiddie, he allowed Kyrie to really be a shooting guard, bro. And when Kyrie just has to focus on putting the ball in the basket, bro, it's dangerous, bro. Like, not to say that he can't run the team, but he's just a bona fide scorer, man. And like Dinwiddie allowed him to do that, and then you bring Karras, off the bench, and I'm like, man, now you got one of the most young explosive scorers playing against second units, and he's clearly a starter on an NBA team. So, like you said, man, hate to see that happen. Speedy recoveries to those dudes. Hopefully they bounce back, get back here soon and, take off. For number 3, man, we kind of alluded to this, man. I want to give a shout out to, Colin Sexton and Darius Garland, bro. Like, again, I said, I want the Bulls to draft Garland. I like Sexton a lot, a.k.a. Young Bull. Went to school in Alabama. Dude, these two young dudes are hooping. And the reason why I want to shout them out is not just so much what they're doing and, the leadership that they're taking on, but, both of them were ridiculed a lot, in their early careers. Sexton's only been in the league for 3 years now, his third season. And I remember, reports coming out that the vets in Cleveland didn't think he knew how to play basketball.
Yes.
And
I know exactly.
Bro, it was crazy. Like, they're more or less saying that the kid was stupid. I'm like, bro, this is ridiculous. And so for me, I looked at that because there was a lot of people who had, wrong misconceptions about Colin, bro. I mean, for a rookie to average 17, 3 and 3 and shoot, 43% and 40 from 3 as a rookie, a lot of people were taking that, bro. Like, you know what I mean? But, like, because of what was in the media, people thought he wasn't good. And so, he took that jump next year. He, averaged 21 a game, shot 47, 48% from the field, still shot up close to 40% from 3. And this year, man, he took that jump again. Now he's averaging like 25, 3 and 5 almost. And he's shooting close to 50% from the field almost and like 40 from 3. So it's huge to see that jump. And then Darius Garland, man, a lot of people, same thing down on him. He shot, a little under 40% from the field last year. He's a smaller guard anyway, 6'1" or so. And so people really didn't, know if he could do it. And, man, to see the jump that man is taking, I mean, he's up to almost 19 points a game and 8 assists. And I'm like, as a sophomore, man, it's a small sample size, man, but, shout out to them. They got the name. I don't know if it's going to stick, but Larry Nance Jr. called him Sexton, playing on Colin Sexton and Darius Garland. I can't say at a 21, 22-year-old if I want people running around calling me Sexton, but you know what I mean? It's a funny name. It might, you know what I mean? It might stick, it might not. But, yeah, man, shout out to those boys, bro. Hooping. Happy to see what they're doing out there in Cleveland, man. Got a nice young core. And it's going to be nice, man. Kevin Love is out, and so it's going to be nice to see how they work when those two, get to have Kevin Love back in that rotation with them.
Yeah. I mean, like they got, like I said, with K Love and Andre Drummond, they got some solid vets that can kind of add structure to the organization. So, I mean, if I'm a Cleveland fan, I'm feeling pretty good about what we have in those two. And
yeah, you decent, yeah, right.
And I will say this: I had a 4-leg parlay that didn't hit yet last night because they lost to the Knicks. But I trust in them though. I'll give them a few more chances. But I think it's.
Hey, man.
Go ahead.
I say, hey, it's a good point, man. Just off topic, but the Knicks, bro, kind of surprising, man. Like. Julius Randle is hooping, and I'm kind of tight right now, bro. I traded him and OG Anunoby and the third pick, which ended up being Wiseman, in my fantasy leagues, a dynasty. We got salary caps and all that. I was trying to get some cap space, contracts coming up, and I'm looking at him like, I got Paul George for them 3. I don't know. Yeah, so tough, man, but hooping, man. Yeah. Shout out to the Knicks too, bro. Yeah. Playing well, crazy.
For real though. it's funny because you talk about Garland. Garland dropped. Was it Kevin Knox who he dropped this past game? Like a mean double crossover. I don't know if you've seen the highlight, but
Yeah, Kevin Knox. Yep.
It was a lot of time guys get the trip cross where like you make it a screen, he trips over the guy's leg. That was a clean. I'm like, that's what I think Garland had. He was getting a lot of Kyrie comps.
Because
his handle was so nice. So little highlights can't hurt the brand either.
That was that. Yeah, bro, that was one-on-one, mano-a-mano. Yep. Let's dance, let's tango. Man.
Absolutely.
Kevin Knox don't know how to tango, bro.
And but the last thing I kind of want to add on to the Garland and Sexton is that just in general, man, I just feel like the social media cycle and the consistent like phenoms, like guys like John Morant and Luka, who are so good as rookies, teams just don't, or more so fans, I guess, just don't know how to have patience with a lot of these players, man. And, I kind of tied it in with the Bulls earlier, but, like, sometimes you just got to chill out, man. Like, if you look at superstars today, not every single guy who's amazing right now was getting buckets in his first 3 seasons. So I think seeing guys like this ball out really reinforces that message. Sometimes guys just need a few years, and that's okay. That's okay. There's so much that go into the first few years of an NBA season, and then last year, especially with how the season just halted with COVID, it just it's a lot just goes into it. And so I think that's the Cavs are a team to look out for sure. That backcourt can be what they've been for the first 4 games, and looking good for real. And I will go ahead and
hey, who knows, man? Who knows?
Yeah. Let's see here. Gonna go ahead and pull this over into our 4th topic, and I got this one, and this is in regards to the. Let me sure I get this number right. What was it, $140 million man or $120 million man? And that is Gordon Hayward of the Charlotte Hornets, who is another team that's been pretty fun to watch. I think the game that kind of took everybody off was the one they got against Brooklyn, and that was when Kyrie and KD were both playing. And so Gordon Hayward on the season is averaging 22 points, 5 rebounds, and 7 assists, and he's had 7 assists in all 3 of his games. And Hayward's always been a player I like because I think he's a guy that any offense, any system, you plug him in, he's going to be efficient and effective. And I think, since he's had that really good season in Utah, people have kind of forgotten the caliber of player he is. And, there's that leg injury, too, that kind of set him back. And when he got back to Boston, obviously, you got a lot of people trying to put the ball in the bucket. And so, his production kind of was still there, but when you got Jason Tatum, who's like a league favorite, one of your sons, I believe, right? Is Tatum one of your sons?
Yeah, that's one of my sons, man. That's my youngest, man.
Right. Yeah. Jaylen Brown. And
by birth.
So, his production kind of goes, like, went under the radar. And so, it's too early to say that he's earning that $120 million contract, but I think if you're a Charlotte fan, if you're Jordan, you're feeling good about what he's been able to do on the court. 22-7, and I was kind of confused as far as who would be that guy scoring wise for this team, but it seems to be Hayward's the lead guy, and they got good guards and a pretty good roster that makes them, at the very least, a fun like league pass team to follow. So, but yeah, shout out Gordon Hayward because a lot of people were had a little head scratching with that contract, but he's actually been playing well. And to beat the Nets, that is a good game because they were looking like arguably the best team in the league at that point.
Yeah, I'm honestly, man, I'm gonna be honest. I'm transparent with mine. I was definitely one of the people when I saw Gordon get that contract. I was like, yo, Mike, you are arguably the greatest player of all time, but bro, you as running a team are terrible. I was like, $120 million to Gordon Hayward, and I love Gordon. I just don't, and I think he has game, but I just don't think the price for him in that market, I'm like, you could have got him for so much less, bro. Like, so I don't know, man. Shout out to him, man. It's good to see him back. It's good to see him, in his groove, playing with the smoothness that he's been playing with, and, giving, those young guys confidence. Miles Bridges is playing well. I think he had 3 big threes, like back-to-back one game. They just lost. Terry Rozier dunked my oldest son, Kevin Durant, which we're not gonna get into that too much, but I give credit where credit's due. Yeah, I don't know how that happened, but yeah, they got a nice little core down there, man. And it's good to see, man. They really, they're really holding each other accountable, which is huge. Which great segue to the last point. Finally, something that we, outside of injuries, that we disliked is, Paul George and his accountability, bro. I mean, I mess with Paul George. I think when he's at his height, top 10 talent in the league, very smooth game, one of the smoothest games. I honestly say I don't know if I've seen anyone that is 6'8" and up that handles the ball like him. He's probably got one of the best handles in NBA history for me, especially for somebody his size.
Yeah.
But, man, that dude is – I don't know, man. Like, he just – first, for a little background, guys, obviously, the Clippers, for those who know and those who don't know, it's going to be something you already know. The Clippers blew a 3-1 lead last playoffs, in the bubble, to the Nuggets. And it was just an epic meltdown. Guys played bad. Kawhi and Paul George, basically went scoreless in the fourth quarter of Game 7 and just had an epic collapse that stopped us from getting us the Battle of L.A., the Lakers versus Clippers. And so, obviously a lot of people decompress. There's a lot of, thoughts going on, feelings. But one thing that stuck out with me, man, is Paul George. He went on All the Smoke with Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson on Showtime. Great pod, basketball pod if you like it. I highly recommend it. He went on there, and one of the things he said is that, he started talking about Doc Rivers and the adjustments that he didn't make. And I agree with that, but also it's like accountability too. Like, Doc Rivers may not make adjustments, but Paul George was playing terrible in the playoffs. And he's, played spotty here and here for the last 2 years. Like, at least every playoff run, he'll have a couple games where he is downright awful. And so for him to call out your former coach, for me, I was like, I'm definitely not doing that. You got to look in the mirror first. What did number one do? What could he have done differently, right? So that was one thing that kind of really – I was like, I don't really like this. And then it kind of tied into, to go back to the bubble a little bit, they made a joke about the Clippers made a joke about the Blazers going home because the Blazers were fighting to get that 8th spot. And, they were all joking around and laughing on the bench. And so it got to Instagram making jokes. Paul George made a joke and said 1, 2, 3 Cancun for the Blazers. And so Dame Lillard, got on there and basically told him that, at least Dame Lillard stays where he's at and he's not running from the smoke, basically saying that he's going to build up his organization, unlike Paul, who's bounced around a couple times now. So, then Paul George and Matt was like, I had injuries and this isn't, on me. And he basically started playing the victim a little bit. And I'm like, come on, man. Like, you started this. Like, Dame didn't do anything. Like, he just
Dame always,
it, right?
Dame always has time. He always has time.
Always has time. Yeah. And that's why, him and I recommend going to NBA Twitter, man. Dame Lillard and CJ had a field day when the Clippers lost. And so, I was like, man, I don't really think Paul George, looks in the mirror, man. He's such a talented dude, man. He's a great player. And it's like, takes that accountability to see where you could do, better your team. You know what I mean? Because you have all the talent. You're so skilled. I traded it for you in fantasy. I believe in you. It's take that accountability, man. And then, it kind of then this was going to really hit the head for me. They come out, play the Lakers. Paul George has 33 points, beat the Lakers, on their ring night. Lakers look a little lackadaisical, still coming to high, getting their ring. Play well next 2 nights. And then they come out day after Christmas. They come out and they play the Mavs. Mind you, on Christmas Day, the Lakers clapped the Mavs, okay?
Right.
Yo, this is correct. Came out, played the Mavs. Kawhi was out. He hurt his jaw in the game before. They were down 77-27 at halftime. I didn't say that wrong. 77-20. They were down 50 points. They scored 27 points in 24 minutes of action. Bro, that is insane.
Insane.
And then they go on to have the biggest loss in their franchise history. Don't even come back, make it a game. They lose by 54. And then after the game, Paul George was like, it's just a game, man. I really enjoyed my Christmas, and that kind of threw things off. I'm like, bro, they just played on Christmas too. Like, you cannot you blaming Christmas for y'all losing by 54 points? Like, dog, come on, man. Like, I don't know, bro. I don't know, man. Like, I feel them. Like, I get it. Like, but bro, come on, man. At some point, you got to be like, yo, this is on me, and we're gonna get better. And let's just kind of lock in, which is a great segue to our next segment, bro. We dropped a segment called "What the Man." It's a new segment that we're gonna be introducing periodically, but basically just something that really just caught us off guard. The NBA really is I tell people it's one of the craziest dramas that you can watch. It's everything going on, and so of course this one is going to be what the Harden. For those who don't follow, man, James Harden has just been in the mix, to say the least. From partying with little baby in the pandemic or panorama, if you're gonna, it's kind of, it depends on where you're at, man. But he's just been all over the place, man. So, what the Harden, I'll let Q kind of get into it because obviously that's Q's man, obviously one of his favorite scorers in NBA history. So let Q take it over, and I'll give my thoughts on the back end. But yeah, what the Harden kick it off.
So I gotta just run through these splits because at times Harden will have games where he's not the most efficient. He'll have games where the free throw line is the majority of his buckets, but that just has not been the case. So I'm gonna run through these splits. This is ridiculous. It's only 2 games. They play again tonight, but Harden is averaging 39 points per game, 12.5 assists a game. Okay, and he's shooting 50% from 3, 59.5% from the field, 92% from the free throw line. Okay, so like
that's tough.
Like I just can't fathom how somebody could clearly be a little bit overweight, a little bit out of shape, clearly hasn't been in the training camp, and just come in and ball
right.
Level, bro. It's crazy. And when he does this, like I have like this ranking of like pure hoopers. These are guys where it's just like it doesn't matter where you go, the skill set will always be there. The game is you can't deny it. Like they can just get a bucket no matter what. I'm thinking about guys like Jamal Crawford. It doesn't mean like you're necessarily the best overall player, but it's just you just got game, bro, and it's natural. And like in 10 years, you're out the league.
Just go out there and get you a bucket, no matter what. Yeah, I get
exactly. It. And Harden might be the number one guy. Might be the number one guy because it's just mind blowing. Like the NBA is no joke. Like you have to be on the highest level of athleticism and just being in shape. And for him to just put these numbers up it's just crazy. Like, and then that game against Portland, he was making clutch shots. He could have had the game winner if it wasn't for CJ, who came down and made a big shot himself. And I'm just like, how do you say anything to him? Like, how do you say anything to him? Go ahead, man. Go. What you got to say?
I think that's the situation that the Rockets put themselves in now, man. Right? Like, what can you say to him? But bro, like I'm telling people, man, you can say what you want about Harden. Obviously, with everything going on, you want to be safe. You want to make sure you're, social distancing. The league has protocols in place. So obviously on that front, right, in the wrong for sure, 100%. But man, like in terms of like being about his business, man, like the way he chooses to live his life is like it's not negatively impacting somebody else. Like I don't see why people care because when it's time to get on that hardwood and when it's time to do his job, he is one of the top 5 people in the world at his job. Like, I mean, he had 44 and 17 against the Blazers team that could possibly, contend to make the Western Conference Finals. And, Dame Lillard and, they got Rob Covington now, a great team. And he comes out, like you said, out of shape. He gave little baby some honey buns in his Prada bag. Maybe he had a couple of them himself. But that didn't stop that man from hooping, bro. He's still going off. Like, for me, I'm like, I don't understand. Like, I get it. Like, you can be mad. Like, yes, he's a little bigger, but at the same time, he's still balling, bro. So, like, for me, it's one of those things, give and take. I think at this point, the Rockets need to go ahead and, his tenure there has been great, man. He's been an all-star every year he's been there. Been first team All-NBA 6 of those times. won an MVP, been in MVP's voting for the times he didn't win, I think 2 or 3 times.
Right.
He's been a runner-up. Man, like sometimes things work, sometimes they don't. And, it's time to let that dude go. But one of the things is, man, like, what the Harden, it might have came off like it was a bad thing. For me, it's like, no, it's because everything going on, he's still hooping, man. He's still doing what he does, and he's still a bucket, bro. So, let that man live his life. Let him do what he's doing. And, if he wants to be traded, trade that man. Because right now, for me, I'm going to be honest with you, all this makes for me is just makes the Rockets look like the Knicks of the South, to be honest. Yeah. Like the way they're handling this, the stuff that they're leaking, the things that they're coming out with, it's like y'all just look bad. Yeah. So if you're basically telling me that, James Harden has basically facilitated and made every move that the Rockets have, it's like, then y'all are just not doing y'all's job. Because the only person that really should be doing that in the NBA right now is LeBron James. Yeah. Like, I mean, he's a great GM. He's won 4 championships doing it. So, like, I mean, I'm not going to knock him, right? But, like, if you give somebody else that control, like, that's on you, man. So, anyways, crazy thing, man. Crazy times. But, like I said, regardless of what you say, Harden is a bucket for sure.
And on Harden, I'm gonna steal the segue into our final topic, and that is kind of like a hot take / prediction on the season. And this will be tracked, right? We're gonna revisit these to see who's a little bit more accurate. But check it out. So, I just heard what you said about Harden and the Rockets and how they should just let him go. But here's my prediction: Harden stays. And this is why I really want to see him on this basketball court tonight. Like tonight's game is actually a game I'm gonna watch because Eric Gordon's back, DeMarcus Cousins, John Wall. They all had to take a few games off due to COVID protocol. This is the first time we'll see this Rockets team with like their roster, right? They've been playing a lot of guys. They probably called some guys up from the G League. They've been playing a lot of guys that probably wouldn't be in the rotation because they've been missing these guys. And so, you got something to say about that?
Right. Is Boogie and Harden playing tonight? Excuse me, Boogie and John Wall playing tonight?
This should be the first day. This should be the first game they're eligible.
Okay.
I have my
I just have to know, man. Yeah, that's what I'm asking, bro. I got to update fantasy. I got John Wall in the chamber right now. On the COVID list. Gotta come off.
So today is the first game. Or I'm sorry, I think they play tomorrow. Actually, though, they play tomorrow. So my bad. So tomorrow night the Rockets play. But regardless, again, this will be the first game we get to see Boogie and Christian Wood and see how that works in their front court, and then you see John Wall and see how they work with Harden in the backcourt. And obviously, EG gonna do what he does off the bench. But again, it's one of those things where like you see how the impact Harden has. We talked about what he's done in the 2 games he's played. They can be a serious contender. I don't think if you're the Clippers, if you're the Lakers, you go into a series with that Houston roster how it is now, where it's like they're not one dimensional. If they want to play big, they got the guys do that now. They want to slow down the game. If Boogie's healthy, he's still one of the best centers in the league. So I think this might, it is a hot take because obviously all signs point to him wanting to get the hell out of there. But if they play some good ball and he's starting to kind of feel how it feels on the court, at the end of the day, like he's a hooper. So if that goes right, I can see Harden staying. And it wouldn't be the first time where you have a superstar who has wanted to get out of the place, ended up staying, and that actually led to some success. I know Olajuwon did it in the 90s. Kobe had a situation where he wanted to get out of LA, ended up winning 2 rings when they got Gasol and those boys in. So
almost came to Chicago.
Yeah. I think he was looking at homes in I can't remember the suburb. I think it's Lake Forest.
He was. So yeah, like Lake Forest or so. Yeah, man.
So yeah, that is my hot take prediction, and I want to see it. I want to see it happen honestly. Because the Rockets team is very, very interesting with all these pieces. So yeah, that's what I got. Track that.
Yeah, man, put that down, man. I like that. I think he's gonna move, but I can see him staying. But like Theo, man, a good point that you bring up is that it's been a while since we've seen John Wall really play. It's been a while since we've seen Boogie play. Dude, to your point, bro, if those dudes are healthy, and I know it might be a long shot, but if they are healthy, yo, it can get scary down in Houston, bro. Like, I'm just being honest. Like, it can get very scary because now Harden's got a true point guard that can run the show. You know, he has success with him and Chris Paul, even though they bumped heads. But true point guard, you get Boogie Cousins at the 5 who can shoot it and pretty much do everything on the court. And you got a young Christian Wood who is really coming into his own, who you can play at the 4 or the 5. So it's so many options they had there that, you know, if those dudes are truly healthy, man, they got a lot of options, bro. So that's a good point, man. I think he's gonna move, but that's a good point. One of my, takes, obviously it's Wednesday, so we'll just call this Wild Take Wednesday. Man, I think Kawhi is going to leave the Clippers in the offseason, bro. I'm gonna double down on this. I've talked about this. I think Kawhi is gonna leave, man. I just, from everything that happened last year in the playoffs, them, having an epic meltdown that people are going to talk about for years to come. From them, mortgaging their future to get Paul George. They basically traded away every draft pick they have for the next, 3 to 4 or 5 year drafts to come. And then they also just gave Paul George like $220 million or $210 million. He's got one of the larger contracts in NBA history. And for me, it's like at that point, the Clippers team, the team is going to be the team. There's not a lot of moves that they can make through the draft or trades. And so they also gave Luke Kennard, he just got 4 years, $64 million, which I like Luke Kennard, just bring out there. So they don't have a lot of flexibility, So if they do not work and this team does not work, if I can get over the hump, I think Kawhi is going to leave, man. He had a 3-year deal with a player option for his last year, which is going to end at the end of the season. And I think he's going to reevaluate, man. Like one of my boys made a hilarious point, man. For anyone who knows, man, big Kanye guy. We were talking about Kanye, and on the last song of College Dropout, it's Last Call. So for those who don't know the song, go check it out. But at the end of it, Kanye is telling a story about how he got signed to The Rock. And so he goes and he's telling the story. And one of the things is he had a deal on the table and it ended up getting pulled. And one of the last line that Kanye says is like, you still think we can get that deal with Rockefeller? And dude, one of my boys said when Kawhi and those dudes lost watching the Raptors play, he probably said, yo, talk to Masai Ujiri, the president of the Rockets, like, you still think we can get that deal with the Rockets? Because, man, like the Raptors, bro, like, I'm telling you, just from everything, man, like, it was a perfect, like, from everything. You're going to get paid. They had a great team. They were literally minutes away from going back to another Eastern Conference final. And then to top it off, bro, like, he had to offer, like, a $15 million penthouse to stay in for free that they were going to give him. They had the Kawhi Eats going on, basically. It was like 50 or something businesses that him and his family could eat at for free for the rest of his life if he stayed in Toronto. So for me, I'm like, bro, I look at that, I'm like, yeah, nah. I mean, I like LA. I'm from here, but tough to pass up, man. Tough to pass up. I haven't been to Toronto, but from what I hear, man, it's, more or less, kind of like Chicago, but just in Canada. So,
exactly.
I'm going to go on record saying that I think Kawhi is going to leave. I will get a caveat, though. If they were to get to the finals, I don't think he'll leave. But if they do not get to the finals and if they do not, get past, I think he's going to bolt, man. And I just think teams coming back. You got the Blazers getting better. I obviously see, what the Lakers have done.
Right.
And they're just getting better. And then all these other teams, the Nuggets core is getting older and they're getting more experience. And then, bro, I mean, people can talk about it. Let's not forget, bro, the Warriors right now, even though they're going through what they're going through, Klay Thompson is still going to come back and be Klay Thompson. So just, and they got Wiseman. And so let's say they don't have a good year this year and they're back in the lottery and they get one of these top draft picks to throw in with all these guys. Draymond hasn't played yet either, and they're 2-0. They're 2-2. So, I mean, the league is just getting better overall. Sacramento Kings getting better. Pelicans getting better. And Phoenix is getting better. So, I mean, the Clippers better figure it out because I really think if they do not get over the hump that, Kawhi is out of there. And, I mean, to be honest, I probably would be too. So,
no, I feel it. I do, but I believe in cursed franchises. I believe that's a real thing. I think when you get into these moments, these big moments, and you have that series last year against Denver that you mentioned, that stuff is always in the back of your head. You just can't deny it. and you've seen it through all sports. Like the Clippers, they're the Clippers. You know what I mean? They're the little brothers in town. I mean, they're the little adopted brothers in town. If anything, they're not even like the little brothers. And so, like, some of that organizational stuff, like, really like have an effect. Like, I feel like the reason why the Bears haven't had a really good quarterback damn near ever. Some stuff is legitimately like, I believe that it's just like concrete, like cemented into these organizations. I think the Clippers have a little bit of that stigma to where like some of those moments, you know, and Kawhi might, again, if this season doesn't work out well, look at his situation and be like, damn, man, I really had it nice in Toronto. You feel me? So I can see that though. I really could. And Kawhi,
yeah.
Never know with old dude. You just never know.
I mean, you never know, bro. And like, I think being in LA market, he's got more mics in his face too. And I think, you know, that's not really his. It's not really his stage, bro. He's just kind of a low key dude, likes to go about his business with his family, and you know, naturally being in the LA market, you're talking about one of the biggest markets in the U.S. So, you know, people are going to be checking. The media is going to be there, and he's answering more questions than he ever has. You know,
right.
So, you know, who knows? But I mean, to your point, man, like some places are cursed, and if y'all saw it, man, they better do what Kyrie did. They better sage the Clippers practice arena. They better sage They better sage Staples. They better do something because the way it's trending, bro. I mean, look, bro, they just lost by 54. We talked about it. Every team get better, so it could get ugly, man. I wouldn't be surprised if it did.
Ugly. Well, that is it on this episode, this second episode. Basically just recapping this first week of the NBA season, and you know, there's so many other things we could have talked about, which is the beauty of the league. And my boy Eric, appreciate you again as always. Looking forward to next time.
Yeah, of course, man. And obviously, you know, like Quincy said, man, you know, any feedback, you know, people have. I know I got a lot from, you know, my people and other people I didn't know, and I'm sure Quincy got the same thing, man. Let us know, you know. Obviously, you know, talk about a lot of different topics, but, you know, it's fans who love it, fans who don't know much. So just let us know what y'all want to hear, man. We can definitely touch on things. I know I got a couple of segments that people want to talk about. So trying to blend all that in, man, make this, you know, something enjoyable for all people, whether you like the NBA or, you know, or an avid fan or you just one of the biggest fans ever. So
Right.
Appreciate y'all.
Yep. Appreciate y'all. Right. That's the episode.